Most people think wealth arrives from the outside, a lucky break, a powerful connection, perfect timing. But look closely at the lives of people who build lasting wealth, and a strange pattern appears. They do not think like everyone else. Long before money shows up in their bank account, something shifts inside their mind. This book starts from that quiet truth. Wealth Begins in the Mind by Charles F. Haanel is not a book about stocks, businesses, or hustle. It is a book about cause and effect, about how invisible thoughts become visible results, about why two people can live in the same city, face the same economy, and still experience completely different financial realities. Haanel makes a bold claim. Wealth is not created by chance, it is created by law. And the first law is mental. Every result you see in the outer world begins as a pattern in the inner world. Income follows thinking. Circumstances follow belief. Action follows identity. This idea sounds simple, but simple ideas often carry the deepest consequences. Think about it. If wealth were only about effort, the hardest workers would be the richest people alive. They are not. If wealth were only about intelligence, every smart person would be financially free. They are not. Something else is at work. Haanel argues that the real dividing line between prosperity and struggle is not effort or education, it is awareness. Specifically, awareness of how the mind works. This book was written in an era before social media, before digital markets, before online businesses. Yet its message feels more relevant now than ever. Today, millions of people chase money while ignoring the mental habits that quietly sabotage them. They copy strategies without changing thought patterns. They seek motivation without building discipline. They want results without mastering causes. This is why wealth feels random to so many people. They see the effect, but they never study the cause. At its core, this book revolves around a few powerful themes. First, thought is creative, not in a mystical sense, but in a practical one. Your dominant thoughts shape your choices shape your habits shape your outcomes. Change the thought and the chain reaction changes. Second, wealth follows law, not luck. Just as gravity does not reward belief but responds to action, financial outcomes respond to mental and behavioral patterns. When you understand the law, results stop feeling mysterious. Third, the subconscious mind sets limits. You may consciously want success, but if your deeper beliefs reject it, progress stalls. This explains self-sabotage, inconsistency, and the feeling of being stuck at the same level year after year. Fourth, clarity and purpose matter more than effort. Vague desires produce vague results. Clear intention focuses energy. Focused energy multiplies results. And finally, inner mastery precedes outer success. Money amplifies who you already are. It does not fix confusion, fear, or lack of direction. Those must be addressed first. This video is not a shortcut. It is not a promise of instant wealth. It is an invitation to slow down and look inward, to understand why your current results make sense given how you think, decide, and act. As we move chapter by chapter, you will notice a shift. The book gradually pulls attention away from external circumstances and places it where real control exists, inside your mind. You may feel uncomfortable at times. This work removes excuses. It replaces blame with responsibility. But it also offers something rare: freedom. Because once you understand that wealth begins in the mind, you stop waiting for permission. You stop chasing luck. You start building causes. And when causes change, effects must follow. In the next chapter, we begin at the foundation, the mental origin of wealth, the moment where every financial reality truly starts. Chapter 1. The Mental Origin of Wealth. Why do two people with similar skills live completely different financial lives? Same education, same city, same economy. One struggles for decades, the other steadily grows wealth. This question sits at the heart of Charles Haanel's work. He does not start with money, he starts with mind. Haanel's first argument is simple and unsettling. Wealth does not begin in the bank account, it begins in thought. Every material result is the final stage of a process that starts mentally. Before a business exists, it exists as an idea. Before income grows, confidence grows. Before opportunity appears, perception changes. Nothing material shows up fully formed. Everything begins as a mental image held long enough to influence behavior. Think about any object around you: a phone, a chair, a building. Each one existed first as a thought in someone's mind. The physical version came later. Money works the same way. Wealth is a constructed outcome, not a random event. This explains something many people feel but rarely articulate. Financial struggle often continues even when circumstances improve: new jobs, higher salaries, better tools. Yet the results barely change. The environment shifts, but the outcome stays familiar. Why? Because the internal pattern remains the same. Haanel describes this as the law of mental causation. The outer world responds to inner patterns, not instantly and not emotionally, but consistently. If your dominant thinking is scarcity, your decisions will reflect caution, fear, and short-term survival. If your dominant thinking is growth, your decisions will reflect patience, learning, and long-term value creation. These decisions compound over time. Consider two workers. One views work as something to endure. The other views it as a place to learn leverage and skill. Both show up each day, both get paid, but one studies systems, relationships, and improvement. The other waits for relief. 5 years later, their financial lives look nothing alike. The difference was not effort, it was interpretation. Haanel emphasizes that the mind is not passive. It constantly selects what to notice, what to ignore, and how to respond. Opportunity is not rare, awareness is. This is why people can stand in the same market and see completely different realities. One sees risk, another sees possibility. One sees limitation, another sees leverage. Neither is seeing the full truth. Each is seeing a filtered version shaped by prior beliefs. Wealth, in this sense, is less about getting something new and more about removing internal blind spots. Another key idea in this chapter is that poverty is not a personal failure, it is a learned pattern. This matters because it removes shame and replaces it with responsibility. If results are caused, they can be changed. Haanel is careful here. He does not argue that thought alone creates wealth. He argues that thought directs action, and action, repeated consistently, produces results. A person who believes money is scarce will avoid calculated risk. They will undervalue their work. They will delay decisions. Over time, these small choices create predictable outcomes. A person who believes value creates income will invest in skill. They will seek leverage. They will tolerate short-term discomfort for long-term gain. Same world, different causes. This chapter also introduces the idea of dominance. Not every thought matters, only the dominant ones do. Passing wishes have little power. Repeated mental habits shape behavior. You may want wealth, but if your dominant thoughts revolve around fear of loss, rejection, or failure, those thoughts will guide your actions more than desire ever will. This explains why motivation fades. Motivation is temporary, dominant thinking is habitual. Haanel challenges the reader to observe their mental diet. What thoughts repeat daily? What assumptions feel automatic? What expectations quietly guide decisions? Most people never ask these questions. They focus on tactics instead: new strategies, new jobs, new investments. Yet the same internal patterns recreate familiar outcomes. This is not because the world is unfair. It is because the mind is consistent. There is also a subtle but important shift here. Haanel reframes control. You cannot control markets, employers, or timing, but you can control how you think, what you study, and how you respond. That control is where wealth begins. When people hear that wealth begins in the mind, they often misunderstand it as positive thinking. Haanel means something deeper.
He means disciplined thinking, directed thinking, thought aligned with reality and law. Optimism without clarity is fantasy. Desire without belief is frustration. Action without understanding is exhaustion. Mental origin does not mean magical thinking, it means intelligent causation. This chapter ends with a quiet responsibility placed in the reader's hands. If your current financial reality exists, it exists for a reason, not a moral reason, a causal one. That realization can sting, but it's also freeing. Because once you accept that results follow patterns, you stop asking why life is unfair and start asking what pattern needs to change. Key takeaway? Your financial life is not random. It reflects your dominant way of thinking. Next, Haanel takes this idea further. If wealth is an effect, what exactly is the cause? In the next chapter, we explore the law of cause and effect and why nothing in the material world happens by accident.
Chapter 2. The Law of Cause and Effect. Nothing happens by accident. This idea sounds obvious in science, but strange in money. People accept cause and effect in physics, health, and nature. Plant seeds and you get crops. Ignore sleep and energy drops. Touch fire and you get burned. But when it comes to wealth, many people abandon this logic. They talk about luck, timing, fate, the economy, other people. Charles Haanel refuses this explanation. He insists that money follows the same law as everything else. Cause produces effect, always. Wealth is an effect. Poverty is an effect. Income is an effect. The cause sits elsewhere. This chapter is about removing mystery from money, not by simplifying life, but by clarifying responsibility. Haanel begins with a sharp distinction. Money is not a cause. It never was. Money is a result of value expressed through thought and action. Treating money as a cause leads to endless confusion. People say things like, if I had money, I could invest. If I had money, I could learn. If I had money, I could take risks. But this reverses the order of reality. The real sequence works differently. Thinking creates decisions. Decisions create behavior. Behavior creates value. Value attracts money. When people chase money directly, they skip the cause and grab at the effect. This is why so many financial efforts feel fragile. They depend on external conditions instead of internal consistency. Haanel uses simple logic here. If two people earn the same income and one builds wealth while the other stays broke, money itself cannot be the cause. Something else determines the outcome. That something else is mental cause. Mental cause includes beliefs, expectations, attitudes, and habits of attention. These factors influence what opportunities you notice, what risks you tolerate, and what actions you repeat. The world responds to patterns, not intentions. This explains a common and painful experience. A person gets a raise, a bonus, or a new opportunity. For a short time, things improve. Then slowly, almost invisibly, old habits return. Spending rises, discipline fades, decisions revert. The person ends up in the same financial place as before. The effect returned because the cause never changed. Haanel makes an important clarification. Cause and effect do not always appear close together in time. This delay confuses people. They forget what caused what. A decision made today may produce results months or years later. A habit repeated quietly may shape outcomes long after the original choice is forgotten. This delay creates the illusion of randomness. Consider health. Poor eating habits do not cause illness overnight. They accumulate. By the time symptoms appear, the cause feels distant. Money works the same way. Small financial decisions repeated over time build predictable results. Debt is rarely caused by one mistake. Wealth is rarely caused by one success. Both are slow constructions. Another critical point in this chapter is neutrality. The law of cause and effect does not judge.
It does not reward effort. It does not punish desire. It simply responds. If you plant apple seeds, you get apples. If you plant nothing, nothing grows. The law does not care about your intentions or emotions. This idea can feel harsh, but it is actually fair. It means outcomes are not personal attacks, they are feedback. Feedback tells you what to adjust. Many people waste years arguing with effects. They complain about income, inflation, employers, and systems. But arguing with effects never changes causes. Haanel pushes the reader to reverse the focus. Instead of asking why money is scarce, ask what mental patterns produce scarcity. Instead of asking when opportunity will arrive, ask what habits prepare you to recognize it. This shift is uncomfortable because it removes excuses. Yet it also returns power. If wealth follows law, then learning the law matters more than hoping for exceptions. Haanel also addresses fear here. Many people resist responsibility because they fear blame. If outcomes are caused, then failure feels personal. But Haanel reframes this. Responsibility is not self-punishment. It is self-direction. If your actions caused your results, then your actions can also change them. This is where confidence actually comes from, not from optimism, but from understanding. A person who understands cause and effect does not panic during temporary setbacks. They know that causes are still working even when results are not visible yet. They stay consistent because they trust the process. This explains why emotionally reactive people struggle financially. They respond to short-term effects instead of long-term causes. They change strategy every time results fluctuate. They never allow causes to compound. Haanel highlights patience as an intellectual skill. Patience is not waiting. It is continuing the right causes despite delayed feedback. This is rare, and it is valuable. Another subtle idea in this chapter is substitution. People often try to substitute one cause for another. They substitute hope for planning, effort for direction, desire for discipline. The law does not accept substitutes. You cannot replace clarity with motivation. You cannot replace skill with wishful thinking. You cannot replace consistency with bursts of energy. The effect will always match the true cause, not the substitute. This is why financial advice often fails. It focuses on surface behaviors without addressing mental causes. Telling someone to save more without addressing their beliefs about security rarely works. Telling someone to invest without addressing fear rarely sticks. The mind always pulls behavior back to its comfort zone. Haanel closes this chapter by grounding everything in simplicity. Wealth does not require extraordinary intelligence. It requires alignment with law. Understand cause, choose causes intentionally, repeat them consistently, and allow time for effects to appear. Once this logic is internalized, money stops feeling mysterious. It becomes mechanical. Not easy, but understandable. And understanding is power. Key takeaway. Money is an effect. Change the cause, and the effect must change. In the next chapter, Haanel sharpens the focus even further. If mental causes create results, what determines which thoughts actually become dominant? The answer lies in attention, and attention is the steering wheel of the mind.
Chapter 3. The Power of Attention and Focus. Why do some people spot opportunity instantly while others miss it completely? Same room, same conversation, same information. Different outcomes. Charles Haanel traces this difference to one quiet force: attention. Your attention decides what enters your mental world. Whatever you focus on grows in importance. Whatever you ignore slowly disappears from influence. This is not philosophy. It is mechanics. The mind cannot hold everything at once. It selects. That selection shapes perception. Perception shapes decision. Decision shapes action. Wealth begins to diverge at the level of attention.
Haanel explains that attention is not neutral, it is creative. When you repeatedly focus on a subject, the mind starts organizing information around it. Patterns emerge, connections appear, ideas combine. This is why people who focus on problems see more problems, and people who focus on solutions see more options. The world does not change, the filter does. Consider how experts operate. A trained investor reads a balance sheet and sees risk and potential. A beginner sees numbers. A skilled entrepreneur hears a complaint and sees a business idea. Others hear noise. The difference is trained attention. Haanel emphasizes that attention directs mental energy. Energy without direction scatters. Scattered energy produces weak results. This explains why many people feel busy but make little progress. Their attention jumps constantly. News, social media, opinions, worries, desires. Each pull drains focus. Nothing compounds. Wealth requires concentration over time, not intensity for a day, consistency for years. Haanel makes a sharp observation. Most people do not choose what they focus on. Their environment chooses for them. Headlines, fear-based conversations, urgency culture, comparison. Attention becomes reactive instead of intentional. Reactive attention builds reactive lives. When attention stays locked on scarcity, mistakes, or fear, the mind becomes defensive. Decisions shrink. Risk tolerance drops. Creativity narrows. This is not a moral failure. It is a mechanical outcome. Haanel encourages deliberate focus. This does not mean ignoring reality. It means choosing what deserves mental energy. Attention is limited. Spend it where it compounds. Another idea in this chapter is amplification. Focus magnifies whatever it rests on. Focus on obstacles and they feel larger. Focus on growth and progress accelerates. This is why confidence often appears before success. Confident people focus on capability rather than limitation. That focus shapes behavior. Behavior creates evidence. Evidence reinforces the leaf. The loop builds upward. Discipline of attention also explains specialization. Wealth rarely comes from shallow knowledge across many areas. It comes from deep understanding in one valuable area. Depth requires sustained attention. Haanel points out that distraction is not harmless. It is expensive. Every time attention breaks, momentum resets. The mind returns to surface-level thinking. This is why real progress often feels slow at first. Focus builds quietly. Then suddenly, insight appears. Opportunity becomes obvious. Others call it luck. It was not luck. It was accumulation. Haanel also warns about negative attention. Worry is focused imagination in the wrong direction. Repeated worry trains the mind to expect loss. Expectation influences behavior. Behavior shapes outcomes. People who constantly worry about money often create the very instability they fear. They make short-term decisions. They avoid long-term investments. They cling to security at the cost of growth. Again, cause and effect. The solution is not blind positivity. It is intelligent focus. Study value creation. Observe people who build systems. Pay attention to leverage, skill, and long-term thinking. What you study becomes what you see. Haanel suggests a simple but difficult practice. Observe where your attention goes naturally, not where you want it to go, where it actually goes. This reveals hidden priorities. If your attention constantly returns to complaints, comparison, or escape, your results will reflect that. If your attention returns to learning, building, and refining skill, your results will follow. Attention is a daily vote. Each moment reinforces a direction. This chapter quietly places responsibility back in your hands. You may not control events, but you do control what you dwell on. And what you dwell on shapes who you become. Key takeaway: focused attention multiplies thought. Scattered attention weakens it. In the next chapter, Haanel goes deeper. Focus alone is not enough if belief quietly contradicts desire. To understand this conflict, we must explore belief and the subconscious mind.
Chapter 4. Belief and the Subconscious Mind. Why do people sabotage their own progress? Why do good opportunities create anxiety instead of confidence? Why does success feel unsafe for some people? Charles Haanel answers these questions by separating two forces: what you consciously want and what you subconsciously believe. Most people assume these are aligned. They are often not. You may consciously want wealth, freedom, or growth, but if your deeper beliefs associate money with stress, conflict, or loss, your behavior will quietly resist success. This inner conflict explains inconsistency. The subconscious mind does not reason, it accepts patterns. It learns through repetition, emotion, and experience. Once a belief is installed, it operates automatically. Haanel describes the subconscious as the storehouse of habits. It governs routines, reactions, and emotional responses. Conscious thought may set goals. Subconscious belief sets limits. This is why affirmations often fail. Repeating words does not override deeply held belief. The subconscious listens to evidence, not wishes. If your subconscious believes money disappears quickly, it will guide you to spend, avoid saving, or fear investment. If it believes wealth creates danger, it will create excuses to retreat. The mind always seeks consistency. Haanel uses this idea to explain sudden reversals. People win money and lose it. People rise in income and return to old levels. The subconscious pulls results back to its familiar range. This is not punishment, it is homeostasis. The ceiling of your income often matches the ceiling of your self-image. Beliefs form early. Family attitudes, cultural messages, emotional experiences, observing others struggle. These impressions sink deep and feel like truth. Once installed, they shape interpretation. A wealthy person sees money as a tool. A struggling person sees it as a threat or miracle. The same object produces different emotional responses. Emotion signals belief. Haanel emphasizes that belief influences behavior invisibly. You do not feel blocked, you feel rational. You tell yourself stories that sound reasonable. I will invest later. I am not ready yet. This is risky. People like me do not do that. These thoughts feel logical, but they protect belief, not progress. The subconscious avoids discomfort. Growth threatens identity. Change triggers resistance. This is why many people prefer familiar struggle to unfamiliar success. Haanel does not suggest fighting belief aggressively. Force creates tension. The subconscious resists pressure. Change requires understanding. Belief shifts when new evidence becomes emotionally convincing. Repeated action, reflection, and small wins gradually update the internal model. This is why environment matters. Being around people who normalize growth expands belief. Studying examples rewires expectation. You cannot argue your way out of a belief you emotionally learned. Haanel also explains why fear feels so powerful. Fear is not weakness, it is the subconscious signaling danger based on past patterns. Sometimes those patterns are outdated. Financial fear often comes from observing instability, not experiencing it directly. The mind inherits caution. The solution is not recklessness, it is conscious leadership of thought. Conscious thought must guide behavior long enough for the subconscious to update. This requires patience. Haanel highlights repetition as the language of the subconscious. What you repeatedly do matters more than what you occasionally think. Small, consistent actions teach belief. Saving consistently teaches abundance. Learning consistently teaches capability. Building consistently teaches confidence. The subconscious responds to evidence. Another important idea in this chapter is alignment. When conscious desire and subconscious belief align, effort feels lighter, decisions feel obvious, action flows. This alignment creates momentum.
Misalignment creates friction. People call this laziness or lack of motivation. It is neither. It is internal disagreement. Haanel encourages the reader to observe emotional reactions to money: excitement, fear, guilt, relief. These reactions reveal belief. Emotion is the subconscious speaking. Once belief is understood, it can be reshaped through experience, not force. This chapter marks a turning point in the book. Up to now, we have discussed thought and attention. Here, Haanel reveals why change feels difficult. The real gatekeeper is belief. Key takeaway: your subconscious beliefs set the upper limit of your financial results. In the next chapter, Haanel shows how belief is influenced and accelerated. The answer is emotion. Emotion gives thought momentum and makes belief stick.
Chapter 5: Emotion as the Engine of Creation. Why do some ideas move people to action while others fade instantly? Why do certain goals feel alive and others feel distant? Charles Haanel answers this with one word: emotion. Thought alone is weak. Thought charged with emotion becomes force. Emotion is what gives ideas momentum. It is the energy that pushes thought past hesitation and into action. Without emotion, ideas remain intellectual. With emotion, they become personal. Haanel explains that the subconscious responds to feeling, not logic. Emotion is the language it understands. This is why emotionally intense experiences shape belief so quickly. Fear installs belief instantly. Desire installs belief when sustained. Enthusiasm accelerates learning. When people struggle financially, it is rarely because they lack ideas. It is because their ideas carry no emotional weight. They want change, but not enough to rewire behavior. Emotion bridges this gap. Haanel emphasizes that desire must be alive, not polite, not casual, alive enough to influence daily choices. This does not mean obsession or anxiety. It means meaningful connection. When a goal matters deeply, attention organizes around it. Behavior adjusts automatically. Think of moments when you learned fastest, not in classrooms, in moments of urgency, curiosity, or passion. Emotion focused attention. Focus built skill. Wealth building follows the same pattern. Haanel also explains why fear often outpaces desire. Fear carries strong emotion. Desire is often vague. This imbalance causes people to retreat even when opportunity appears. To progress, desire must become emotionally stronger than fear. This requires clarity, imagination, and repetition. Another key idea is emotional rehearsal. The mind learns through imagined experience almost as powerfully as real experience. Visualization, when emotionally vivid, trains expectation. This is why athletes visualize performance. The nervous system responds, confidence increases, execution improves. Haanel applies this to wealth. When you emotionally rehearse success, the subconscious begins to accept it as possible. Possibility changes behavior. But there is a warning here. Emotion without direction creates chaos. Panic, greed, and desperation distort thinking. Emotion must be guided by intelligence. Emotion supplies energy. Thought supplies direction. Haanel draws a clear line between desire and craving. Desire seeks creation. Craving seeks relief. Craving is driven by lack. Desire is driven by purpose. Craving leads to impulsive decisions. Desire sustains patience. This distinction explains why quick money thinking often fails. It is emotionally driven but poorly directed. The result is instability. Haanel encourages cultivating positive emotion through progress, not fantasy. Small wins generate belief. Belief fuels emotion. Emotion sustains effort. The loop strengthens. Another insight in this chapter is emotional environment. Surroundings influence feeling. Feeling influences belief. Belief influences action. This is why constant exposure to fear-based media weakens confidence. It trains emotional reactions toward threat.
Likewise, exposure to examples of growth trains emotional expectation toward possibility. Haanel does not suggest isolating from reality. He suggests choosing inputs carefully. Emotion also influences persistence. When emotion fades, discipline must carry the process. But emotion is what starts momentum. Most people fail not from lack of ability, but from emotional disengagement. Goals remain abstract, life interrupts, urgency disappears. Haanel insists that real goals should move you. If they do not, they are not yet defined. Emotion connects abstract ideas to identity. This chapter deepens the book's logic. Thought creates direction. Belief sets limits. Emotion supplies energy. All three must align. Key takeaway: emotion gives thought the power to influence belief and action. In the next chapter, Haanel focuses that emotional energy. Desire without clarity scatters. Clear purpose turns emotion into direction.
Chapter 6: Definite Purpose and Clarity. Why do so many people work hard yet drift for years? Why does effort often fail to translate into progress? Charles Haanel points to one missing element: clarity. Energy without direction wastes itself. Emotion without purpose scatters. Desire without definition creates frustration. Haanel argues that most people never decide what they actually want. They carry wishes, not intentions. Wishes feel safe. Intentions demand commitment. A definite purpose acts like a compass. It organizes attention, filters opportunity, and guides decision-making. Without clarity, the mind hesitates. With clarity, the mind selects. Haanel explains that clarity is not a personality trait. It is a discipline. It requires honest thinking and uncomfortable specificity. Many people avoid defining goals because definition introduces responsibility. Once a goal is clear, avoidance becomes obvious. Vague language protects comfort. Clear language demands action. Consider the difference between wanting more money and wanting a specific income from a specific value you create. One drifts, the other directs. Haanel emphasizes precision. A clear purpose answers three questions. What do you want? Why do you want it? How will it be expressed? When these questions remain unanswered, emotion leaks into distraction. Clarity does something powerful. It turns noise into signal. Opportunities that align stand out. Those that do not fade. This is why focused people appear lucky. They are selective. Another idea in this chapter is commitment. A definite purpose reduces internal debate. Decisions speed up. Doubt decreases. When purpose is unclear, every choice feels heavy. When purpose is clear, many choices disappear. Haanel also links clarity to confidence. Confidence does not come from knowing everything. It comes from knowing what matters. A person with purpose can tolerate uncertainty. A person without purpose feels overwhelmed by options. This explains modern paralysis. Endless choices, endless information, little direction. Clarity cuts through complexity. Haanel warns against borrowed purpose. Goals copied from others rarely sustain energy. Emotion fades quickly when purpose lacks personal meaning. Real purpose aligns with values, interests, and capability. It grows through reflection and testing. Clarity evolves, but it must exist. Another important insight is written intention. When ideas stay vague, they shift constantly. Writing forces precision. Precision creates accountability. Haanel encourages stating purpose clearly and revisiting it regularly, not as affirmation, but as orientation. Purpose also regulates emotion. When obstacles appear, purpose prevents emotional collapse. It reframes difficulty as cost, not failure. This is critical. Wealth building is rarely smooth. Without purpose, obstacles feel personal. With purpose, they feel temporary. Clarity also influences patience. When the destination is clear, delay feels tolerable. When it is vague, delay feels pointless. Haanel challenges the reader to stop waiting for perfect clarity.
Clarity grows through engagement, but some decision must be made. Movement sharpens focus. This chapter marks a shift from internal understanding to external expression. Thought, belief, emotion, and purpose now point toward action. Key takeaway: clear purpose converts emotional energy into focused direction. In the next chapter, Haanel addresses action itself, not frantic effort, but intelligent action, guided by understanding.
Chapter 7. Action Guided by Intelligence. Why do some people work endlessly and stay stuck? Why do others make a few well-chosen moves and progress quickly? Charles Haanel draws a sharp distinction here. Action alone does not create wealth. Intelligent action does. Effort without understanding wastes energy. Activity without direction creates exhaustion. Haanel challenges the belief that hard work guarantees results. Hard work applied to the wrong causes compounds failure. This is uncomfortable because effort feels virtuous, intelligence feels slower. But wealth favors leverage. Intelligent action begins with thought. Thought selects direction, direction selects effort, effort produces effect. When people skip thinking, they compensate with intensity. This leads to burnout, not progress. Haanel emphasizes the role of planning. Planning is not hesitation, it is economy of effort. 1 hour of clear thinking can save years of misdirected labor. This is why successful people appear calm. They act less but with more impact. Another insight in this chapter is leverage. Intelligent action multiplies results by using systems, tools, and cooperation. A person trading time for money hits limits. A person building value through systems scales. This does not require brilliance, it requires understanding where effort compounds. Haanel also highlights observation. Intelligent action responds to feedback. It adjusts without ego. It learns. People stuck in struggle often repeat the same action, hoping for a different result. Intelligence asks whether the cause still makes sense. Emotion drives effort. Intelligence directs it. Haanel warns against blind persistence. Persistence without reflection becomes stubbornness. The law responds to correct causes, not effort alone. This is why failure is valuable. It reveals mismatched causes. Another important idea is restraint. Not every opportunity deserves action. Saying no preserves energy for what aligns with purpose. Intelligent action requires patience. Quick results feel good, compounding results matter more. This is especially relevant in wealth building. Slow growth built on solid causes outlasts fast growth built on speculation. Haanel also emphasizes self-direction. Waiting for permission delays progress. Those who understand cause and effect act responsibly without external validation. This does not mean recklessness, it means ownership. Action guided by intelligence feels different. It feels deliberate, calm, sustainable. This chapter connects inner mastery with external execution. Thought shapes plan, belief supports consistency, emotion supplies energy, purpose sets direction, intelligence guides action. When these align, progress accelerates without chaos. Key takeaway: right thinking reduces unnecessary struggle and multiplies results. In the next chapter, Haanel widens the lens. Individual effort works best when aligned with larger principles. Wealth grows fastest when it cooperates with natural law. Chapter 8. Harmony with Universal Law. Why do some people gain wealth and lose peace? Why do others grow steadily and endure? Charles Haanel introduces a broader idea here. Wealth that lasts must align with universal principles. You cannot fight the structure of reality and win long-term. The universe rewards cooperation, not conflict. It rewards value, not extraction. It compounds what contributes and erodes what exploits.
This is not morality, it is mechanics. Haanel explains that wealth grows fastest when it serves more than the self. Value given returns multiplied. Value withheld stagnates. This idea challenges the narrow view of competition. Many believe wealth comes from taking more than others. Haanel argues the opposite. Wealth comes from creating more than you consume. Every enduring business solves a problem. Every lasting fortune delivers usefulness. When value flows outward, money flows inward. This is why deception eventually collapses. It violates law. It creates short-term gain and long-term instability. Haanel emphasizes integrity as alignment. When thought, speech, and action match, energy is not wasted. Trust forms. Trust compounds. Trust reduces friction. Reduced friction accelerates growth. This explains why reputation matters even in invisible ways. People respond to consistency. Opportunities seek reliability. Another key idea is cooperation. Wealth expands through connection. No one builds alone. Systems amplify effort. Those who isolate limit growth. Those who cooperate multiply reach. Haanel also discusses harmony with self. Internal conflict drains energy. When desire, belief, and action align, progress feels smoother. Resistance often signals misalignment. Not every struggle means quit. Some signal adjustment. Haanel warns against forcing outcomes. Force ignores timing. Law operates in sequence: planting, growing, harvesting. Impatience disrupts cycles. This chapter reframes wealth as participation, not domination. You participate in economic flow by contributing intelligence, effort, and value. When aligned, resistance decreases. Key takeaway: wealth grows faster and lasts longer when it benefits others. In the next chapter, Haanel addresses a challenge that stops many people who align correctly. Results often arrive later than expected. Persistence becomes essential.
Chapter 9: Persistence and Mental Discipline. Why do so many people quit just before progress becomes visible? Why does effort feel pointless right before results appear? Charles Haanel returns to the law of cause and effect and focuses on timing. Causes operate first, effects appear later. This delay tests discipline. Most people stop during the invisible phase. Persistence is not stubbornness, it is informed patience. It is continuing the right causes even when feedback is delayed. Haanel explains that mental causes require time to translate into material form. Thoughts shape habits. Habits shape systems. Systems produce results. Interrupt the process too early and nothing appears. This delay creates doubt. Doubt weakens belief. Weak belief reduces consistency. The mind searches for immediate validation. When it does not appear, motivation drops. Haanel reframes persistence as trust in law, not faith in hope. A person who understands law persists calmly. A person who relies on emotion quits emotionally. Mental discipline becomes critical here. Discipline means acting according to principle, not mood. Mood changes. Principle remains. Haanel also highlights the danger of comparison. Watching others succeed faster distorts perception. You do not see their causes, you only see their effects. Comparing effects creates discouragement. Persistence requires narrowing focus. Doing fewer things consistently beats doing many things occasionally. This chapter emphasizes routine. Routine removes decision fatigue. It stabilizes progress. Haanel encourages building habits that do not rely on motivation. Wealth is built through boring consistency. Emotion starts the journey,
Discipline finishes it. Another insight is delayed feedback. Many financial actions pay off much later: saving, learning, relationship building, investing. People overvalue immediate reward and undervalue long-term effect. This bias creates shallow results. Persistence corrects this bias. Haanel also warns against mental drift. Persistence is mental before it is physical. The moment belief weakens, behavior follows. Protecting belief requires selective input. Fear-based information erodes discipline. Progress-based evidence strengthens it. This does not mean ignoring risk. It means not amplifying noise. Persistence also requires adjustment. Staying the course does not mean ignoring reality. It means correcting causes while maintaining direction. Rigid persistence breaks. Intelligent persistence adapts. This chapter prepares the reader for a final shift. After persistence changes behavior, something deeper changes: identity. Key takeaway: faithfulness is faith in action. In the final chapter, Haanel explores the transformation that results from sustained alignment. Wealth becomes an expression of who you are.
Chapter 10: The Wealth-Conscious Identity. Why does real wealth feel calm instead of frantic? Why do some people stay steady under pressure while others collapse? Charles Haanel ends his work by shifting the focus one final time, from action to identity. You do not become wealthy by collecting money. You become wealthy by becoming the kind of person who consistently produces value. Income follows identity. This explains why sudden success often disappears. Money arrived before the identity was ready to hold it. Behavior reverted. Results followed. Haanel argues that wealth consciousness is not arrogance, it is stability. It is the quiet confidence that comes from understanding cause and effect and trusting your ability to create value. A wealth-conscious person does not panic during setbacks. They do not chase every opportunity. They do not measure themselves by short-term results. They operate from abundance, not fear. This abundance is not blind optimism. It is earned certainty. It comes from repeated evidence that disciplined thought, intelligent action, and persistence work. Identity forms through repetition. What you do consistently teaches you who you are. Someone who saves consistently becomes a saver. Someone who learns consistently becomes capable. Someone who builds consistently becomes confident. This identity shift changes decision-making automatically. Haanel emphasizes self-image. People act in ways that confirm who they believe they are. If you see yourself as struggling, you will make struggling choices. If you see yourself as capable, you will tolerate discomfort for growth. Identity is the deepest cause. Wealth consciousness also changes emotional reactions. Money stops feeling like survival and starts feeling like circulation. It flows through value creation, not anxiety. This chapter closes the loop of the book. Thought shapes belief. Belief shapes emotion. Emotion fuels purpose. Purpose guides action. Action repeated forms identity. Identity produces results. At this stage, wealth is no longer chased, it is expressed. Key takeaway: you do not get rich, you become someone who produces wealth naturally. Now we move to the conclusion, a final reflection on what this book offers and how its ideas can be lived daily.
Conclusion: wealth as an inner state. Charles Haanel's message is simple, but it is not easy. Wealth does not begin with money, it begins with mind. Every chapter has pointed back to this single idea from a different angle, like walking around the same mountain and seeing new faces of it each time. Thought creates direction. Belief sets limits. Emotion supplies energy. Purpose focuses effort. Action expresses intelligence. Persistence compounds results. Identity sustains success. Miss one element and the structure weakens. Haanel does not offer tricks, he offers responsibility, not as pressure, but as power. When wealth is seen as an effect, frustration fades, curiosity replaces complaint. Instead of asking why money is hard, you ask what causes you are building daily. This perspective changes how you relate to struggle. Setbacks stop feeling like judgment. They become information, feedback pointing toward adjustment. The book's relevance today is striking. Modern life multiplies distraction, comparison, and emotional noise. People chase faster results with weaker foundations. They mistake motion for progress. Haanel's work cuts through that confusion. It slows the mind. It restores order. True wealth in this framework is not just financial. It is composure. It is clarity. It is the ability to think independently and act deliberately in a reactive world. Money becomes a byproduct of alignment. The cultural impact of this idea is subtle but powerful. A society that understands mental causation shifts from entitlement to ownership, from envy to value creation, from fear to participation. On a personal level, the book asks for honesty. It invites you to examine dominant thoughts, automatic beliefs, emotional reactions to money, patterns that repeat without question. This examination is uncomfortable, but it is also the doorway to freedom. Haanel leaves the reader with practical direction, not a checklist but principles that guide daily life. First, monitor your dominant thoughts, not once, but daily. What you repeatedly think becomes what you repeatedly do. Second, define your financial intention clearly. Vague goals scatter energy. Precision focuses it. Third, align belief with desire through action. Do not wait for confidence. Build evidence through consistency. Fourth, act intelligently. Seek leverage. Learn continuously. Adjust causes when results lag. Fifth, create value for others. Wealth that serves grows stronger over time. None of these require luck. They require discipline. The final insight of the book is quiet but profound. You are not competing against others. You are cooperating with law. When you understand the law, progress stops feeling random. Wealth becomes predictable. This does not mean effortless. It means understandable. And understanding changes everything. So the question this book ultimately leaves you with is not how to get rich. It is something deeper. What kind of mind are you cultivating each day? What causes are you planting without noticing? And if results follow law, what kind of future are those causes quietly building? Because if wealth begins in the mind, then the most important investment you will ever make is not financial. It is mental.